Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of the ZoShow. We are at the magic number 10. So this is episode 10. And you know what? It's been fantastic. We've had so many great guests so far. And another one is featuring on this episode. He's somebody that I know really well. And actually, you know, I've had the pleasure of working with him as well, working for him, working with him. And, you know, I'm delighted to bring him on today's show. We've got Mr. Kamran Saleem. Kamran, how are you doing?
Hi, Zo. I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on the ZoShow. It's been a few times that you've been on the show now, I think, across different platforms. But I'm sure I'm sure the conversation tonight will be just as fruitful as the others. Just for anyone who doesn't know you, you just want to give a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Kamran Saleem. I'm the Managing Director of MotorServ UK. So we're a car service repair centre based in Solihull, and we're a main dealer alternative. So we provide everything that a main dealer can, but at a cheaper price. And we're the home of the £15 MOT.
Wow, £15 MOT. So
I have to get that in.
Yeah, you have to get it in, and I'm sure we have to ask a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah.
Just to say, if you like what you're hearing so far, please like and subscribe and click the bell icon for any notifications. And actually, do you know what? Just going back to your point about the £15 MOT cam, that is something that I saw, I think, many years ago on your social media. I remember when I first started following MotorServ, and it was something that just stuck out to me. And I thought, how can this guy be charging £15 for an MOT? So just talk to us about, because I'm sure anyone listening is thinking, right, I need to get my MOT done now. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of interested listeners and viewers watching. So just talk a little bit about that, how that came about.
Yeah, sure. So when we opened up, we're based in Monkspath Business Park. So it's a little bit off the beaten track, really. So we're not on the main road frontage. We've got a large premises in an industrial estate. And when we first opened up, to be honest, we were quite shocked, really, because we weren't getting that much footfall through the door. We weren't getting that many customers through the door. So we went through everything that we offered, like all the services, repairs, everything. And the one thing which everyone needs is the MOT. So we thought, why not put the volume right up and put the price right down? So we offered it out on initial, it was actually Euro 2016 competition. We actually did it as part of the football, celebrations. So we did £10 MOT. So during Euro 2016, you get your MOT for £10. And just to test it, just see what it did to the business, what it did to the kind of throughput. And it just went off the chart. So then we thought, okay, we're going to stick it to the home of the £15 MOT. Yeah. And it's been like that ever since. So it's coming on 8 years now. Wow,
it's quite interesting. If I can recall correctly, I don't think England's performance in that tournament was great. So no. I'm just thinking, actually, you know, how many inquiries you would have had.
Do you know what?
But I think,
do you know what's quite funny? What they said. The initial thought was, let's do it while England are in.
Oh,
then we
right.
thought, do you know what? It's not going to be worth the printing because they're not going to be in very long. So.
Yeah, because they left pretty quickly, didn't they?
Yeah.
But as a almost like you could say as a hook and as something that's going to then entice people. You must have had challenges with that, or you must have had obviously a couple of times where you thought, okay, is this really worth it, or was it just all in? Like, let's just go for it and stick with it.
No, it's pretty much all in. Let's go for it because it was because the advertising costs that we used to spend in getting people to the door, you know, just advertising services, advertising all the meaty stuff. It wasn't really creating that much of a kind of increase or footfall. So the £15 MOT that did. So, you know, that really helped. And because we've got the size, we've got the space, we've got the volume, we can handle the MOTs. We've got a twin lane. We've got 4 MOT testers on site, and we actually introduced a £15 MOT, no pass, no fee. So if you don't pass, it's free of charge. Then you can, do whatever you want. You can get the quote from us, or you can go and get the work done elsewhere and bring it back for re-MOT. So we leave it pretty flexible. And we've actually got, because a lot of people say, oh, you're just going to fail it, you're going to create loads of work and you're going to push it through. You can't do that. You're obviously, the MOT testers are under DVSA standards. They've got all their own inspections that happen, that they get audited. So they do the MOT as required, but the actual throughput of the MOT is the volume that we do. Yeah. We've actually got an over 80% pass rate first time, so we're actually above the national average. Yeah. So that's kind of, the stats are there.
Yeah. And it's proven, isn't it? And obviously I've worked with you, and obviously I've used the service myself, and so many other people that we know mutually. It's like, I think, like you said, I think the results speak for themselves, and that level of service, I think, doesn't go unnoticed. But I think what's even more interesting is, I'm sure people are probably wondering, like, your journey into the motor industry and how you first got started. So one thing I want to ask you was, how did that start? Like, because obviously I know that your background is a bit different. So let's just talk about that, your journey from maybe what you were doing initially and then how that transitioned.
Yeah, no problem. So, my background is actually finance and accounting. So, I started off, I went to university, I went to Aston Uni, did business management with finance. Then I went to work for central finance offices, worked down in Swindon for a year and a half, and then worked in various companies, worked at British Gas, worked at Empower, all in the finance departments. And then I actually started working with my father because he was an accountant he owned an accountancy firm in Birmingham. So I went to work there like year after uni, basically, so 2006. And to be honest, I've always been into cars, and that's all I've ever been. That's what I'd been known for. So all my father's clients, all other people, will come to the office and they say, I'm buying this car, I'm buying that, I'm buying a Range Rover Sport, I'm buying a van. I need 3 vans for the office, for work, for the restaurant. So what should I do? And I just used to just from my own experience, I used to buy and sell a lot of cars myself when I was younger. I'd just be like, oh, there's a deal on this, or there's, the best finance package is this, or you should lease that one. And then it just turned into a commercial thing. So I started getting, introductory payments from the banks and from different dealers and stuff. And it just started turning into a bit of a business. And then my dad actually, when he saw what I was doing and he saw like I was kind of earning quite good money, he fired me. So he actually, because I was doing payroll and VAT in the accountancy. So
you don't hear that very often, do you? That your father fires you?
Yeah, he just turned around and said, what's the point?
But for a positive reason.
Yeah, for a positive reason. He said, you should be doing this on your own and like set up a limited company. Here's one I prepared earlier. Stuck me on as director, started putting all the income through that. So he taught me all about, the business structure and taking a dividend. You pay yourself a low payroll amount, so reduce your tax. So he set it all up correctly. And then, he just rolled out from there. So the business kind of went from that. We turned into one of Birmingham's largest finance brokers for cars, with Lombard and Fortis and HBOS and Capbank and stuff. So it was pretty good. Those were the good days that I remember back now. When we first started up and first kind of 4 years, and then the recession hit, and we had to diversify pretty quickly. Went into different property projects, which we'll probably touch base on a little bit later on. But went into various property projects, and then I actually was looking for like a trade premises. I was looking to do something. Then I found our place in Monkspath. Initially, we're actually part of a franchise, so I found a car garage franchise to kind of latch onto. So we started off as ZoShow UK, Solihull. Opened that up, got it running, and it just kind of morphed into, I ended up buying out the franchise because they were kind of impeding our progress. So I bought out the franchise, and then just pushed on. So since it's been 10 years now, since 2014, since we opened in Solihull.
Amazing. Mashallah. I just want to say it's absolutely hats off to you and congratulations for that 10-year journey, which I do think I want to say that, there's obviously that thing about, businesses go through so many different kind of, transitions and they have so many challenges when they're starting out. And I think to not just be successful, but I think to combat all the different things that have maybe come, the obstacles and all those things that have maybe come in the way, recession, pivoting, the different things that you probably did during COVID and everything, where we first connected, it's like, I think there's so many things that you've done to, up until this point, and I think that's, I think that's quite commendable in terms of how you've done those different things. One thing I want to ask you, I want to get on the bit about cars, and I'm guessing people are probably watching and listening and they want to know more about the car stuff. We will get onto that. So please be patient. But I want to ask firstly about your dad. You mentioned that your father was instrumental in how he taught you about business, how he got you into, how he encouraged you to start your business and stuff. One thing I want to ask was like, how important is it to have that, like a role model such as your dad, or, if anyone listening out there, having that support from your parents, how instrumental was that for you? And how important do you think that is for anyone who's aspiring to get into business or any kind of career path?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky because obviously my dad was an accountant and he looked after SMEs, more than anything. So, just having that structure around. So as I was growing up, everyone that we kind of met and everyone that we hung around with were self-employed. They had, and when we used to go away on business trips and stuff, so I used to go with my dad, especially when I could drive because then I became the chauffeur. So I used to go away with my dad and, you're just meeting like shopkeepers, taxi company owners, restaurant owners, printing companies, you name it really. And everyone's self-employed. They're doing their own thing. So just, I don't know, it's just natural to me, like because of that, because of the exposure. And then when I was actually transitioning through and then my dad kind of turned around and said, oh, do you know what? You might as well do this on your own. It's nothing related to payroll, VAT and accounts. So you're not really adding any value to us, but you are adding value to our clients because they're all buying vehicles or all doing stuff. You can stay in the office. You have to pay peppercorn rent for the room and the facilities, but not for the expenses, but you're running on your own really. So, but having my dad, I think at the time you don't realise it. At the time it was just, he was just my dad. He was just there and this is what he did. So it's what I kind of grew up with. But looking back now, massive. It was just, the structure around everything. And it was, the fear of it. There was no fear because it was like, this is what you do. And you just laid it out as a process. So that's a route I took. So I wasn't worried about it. Wasn't scared.
It gave you that reassurance, that sort of like,
this is what you do. Look, everyone does it. All these guys do it and this is what you do. And then, you have to get VAT registered and that was scary. Then like payroll starting to get employees on. Yeah. That was scary. And having to pay them at the end of the month and then, this and that. It's the bloody challenge that it always is. And, it remains like that as well. So it's, it's been a journey, but having that role model, having that person there, like having my dad there, it was like invaluable. And then since my dad's like retired, since he's kind of taken a back seat, I've found other people which are in business. They're at a point where I'd like to get to. So they've got a lot of knowledge, got a lot of information, got a lot of experience, and having someone there to take advice from, to kind of get mentorship from, is invaluable because it helps you cut corners, it helps you do things faster.
Yeah. And also because your dad's such a, he's a community figure. You mentioned to me before that he was chairman of Gumkor Sharif Masjid in Birmingham. Yeah. And obviously, so that role that he had there, do you think that also helped maybe towards that guidance and mentorship and that sort of, because he was experienced on so many different levels amongst the community, was that also a factor as well?
Massive, because it was very high profile at the time. So when it used to be, when there were riots in Birmingham, my dad was on Midlands Today that evening, with the police and like with the mosque committee. So it used to be, and they were always involved with like Birmingham City Council doing this, doing that, doing this. And at the time, we just used to think like our dad works all the time, when we were kids. But now look back again, it's massive load of networking. The people that he knew, the people that we grew up around. I think we had 3 mayors at my wedding. Yeah. And they all did speeches. It was just like, things like that. It was just like, whereas at the time it was, for goodness sake. But like now, it's like looking back, it's well connected. It's good connections. You got stuff done. Yeah. The mosque got stuff done. There was a lot of facilities there. Like the connections with the college and with the council. It led to the big college, opposite Gumkor Sharif, and it was, and that's become a massive tool for the community. It's become a big resource for the community. So things like that, networking around and meeting people, going to meetings, getting involved in different organisations. It was really good. Like I said, at the time, we used to think, Dad works all the time. He's always at work. He's never at home. But he was out there doing stuff for us and for the community and everyone in general, really.
What was the biggest lesson? And this is not to also I keep mentioning your dad. I'm sure your mum and dad, and for anyone listening, by the way, parents play such a pivotal role in our development, and our sort of journey that we play into whatever role that we take in life. But one thing I just want to ask is, and let's bring it away. Let's bring it to just to your parents on this part of the conversation. Is what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned from your parents up until now? I'm not trying to catch you up, by the way. If anyone listening or watching, honestly, this is a genuine conversation that I'm having. Do you know what I mean?
It's unscripted.
Basically.
Probably tell. The biggest lesson, I think it's my dad could do what he could do because he had the family structure behind him, because he had that family support. So I'm very fortunate. I've got the same, like with my wife, with my kids, with the family structure at home, which lets me do what I do. because I'm at work a lot. So Monday to Friday, I'm pretty much unseen apart from the scoring in the morning. So but I've got that support structure there. So my wife's supportive of that. And she does her own thing as well, because she's a science teacher. So she does all her own tuition and stuff. So we keep quite busy. And then we got our kind of times with our kids and stuff. And on the weekends, we spend good family time on the weekends and on bank holidays and on Eid and stuff. It's always good. So, but yeah, having that support structure in the background. And when we were younger, my dad had that with all of us. And I'm very fortunate I've got the same.
Yeah. No, that's that's amazing. And it's like, because obviously I know you're busy, you're involved in so many different projects, and guys, if anyone listening or watching, like I said, Kamran is somebody who is involved in other things apart from just his car business. There are multiple different avenues and projects that he supports. And actually, do you know what? That's something that we'll touch on probably after the break. We're not at the break just yet, by the way. But what, I'm sure everyone, again, you're waiting for the golden question. There's going to be more golden questions as we go on. I really want to ask you now, like, right, when you got into cars or when you were younger, before you obviously got into the business, I really want to ask you about, you said something about, that you've always had an interest in cars. So what I want to ask you is, what is it about cars that, that gets you up every morning? Like, what is it that motivates you about cars? And also, what was your first car that you had?
Well, I wouldn't say the motivation's still there as it used to be, because you get a little bit sick of them. But from a young age, it was always, because my dad used to have a lot of business friends, and he used to be, all the icons of Birmingham, really. The people that like the restaurant owners, the business owners, all the people. The big thing was Mercs back then, Mercedes. Like, what Mercedes have you got? And it used to be like the 190Es, the 230Es, the 500 SEL, 300 SEL.
Was that a statement, do you think?
Yeah, it was something that you bought when you were successful. So all the restaurant owners, they all had the cars, and so you kind of aspire to it. So we didn't. We used to have Nissan Bluebird. So when we used to go out, it used to be like, oh wow, look at that, look at this. And then when we used to go places, someone would have a Land Cruiser, someone would have a Mercedes 500 SEL, a new one, and then we'd be like, wow, and you'd be kind of aspiring to it. And then, it just kind of ingrained in me that, like, basically car equals success. It's the outcome from success. So it was kind of something that I aspired to. And then it'd be what car? Then I started going into the Mercedes, and then BMW started coming into the forefront, and Audis. And I just used to get to know them. And then when I started becoming of influential age, I'd say kind of 11, 12, then I'd be like, Dad, get a Merc. Don't get another boring Bluebird, because he had like 4 in a row. Because he was quite content. He was actually all right with that car. He was just normal. Within 3 years old, Japanese, reliable. So I made him buy his first Mercedes. And then from there, it was like BMW, Mercedes, Audi. So he always had them. And then now he's back. He's got a Toyota Aris now. Yeah. He doesn't care.
He's happy with that. Like,
he's all done. This is what I need. So he's got a Toyota Aris hybrid. And, he's
gets him from A to B. He's happy.
He doesn't drink any fuel because it's hybrid. So he's happy. He's got the bits on his sat nav, heated seats and stuff. So he's happy. But he had his time with all the flash cars and stuff. So it's good. And that's something that, for my work, when I first started working, it was, what car can I get? And it was like, it was the RS4s, the M3s, the Range Rover Sports. It was like kind of like, because obviously I was in the car game, so you used to be getting first option on cars. So you get first option. I had the Range Rover Sport on launch, I had the RS4 on launch, M3 on launch. So you used to get them all, which is brilliant, and then sell them on afterwards, and then the next one would come along. So it was good. It was a bit of a game, but it was good. And that just fueled the, I went to all the motor shows all around the world. I've been to Geneva, I've been to America. I went over to, the French one, Paris. So we used to go to the motor shows, with friends, with colleagues, and then we started getting a bit of a gang. There's loads of us. I remember we went to Geneva once. There's about 30 of us. So it was really good. So it became like a social thing. You go and see all the new cars, and go to Geneva for like 2 days, and then come back. So cars just became integrated into my work, really. So I was quite fortunate that I took that love and that passion and then turned it into a commercial thing, and then started helping people buy cars, helping people finance cars, and then it turned into one day I woke up and I thought I want a garage. I don't know why, but I did. I thought I want a garage.
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's what I'm trying to get to actually. What was it? Yeah.
Triggered. How do I advance this? Like, how do we advance the provisions, the facilities, the services for our clients, for the general public, and what can we do better? And because when I actually bought a transport company in Birmingham, so it was like a executive chauffeur company, but it was a government connected agency. So I bought that when we went into recession, so we had to kind of pivot, we had to do other stuff. So I bought that company, and then we handled all the basically court transport in Birmingham. So we used to look after all the judges and like the high sheriff, and then West Midlands police connection. So we were like blue light trained, and it's quite good. We used to get all the celebrities coming into Birmingham as well, because they used to look for that government endorsement. So it was kind of, we were at a high level. So it's good. And it was nothing, it was Mercedes, BMW, Mercs, were all unmarked, silver, with tinted windows, and it was just corporate stuff. So it was good work. We had really good drivers, and I ran that for 8 years. So it was really hard going, because you cannot be late for court. Like it's literally, there's no tolerance. You have to be on time, whether it's sun, snow, or whatever the weather, fog, icy. Cars have got to be there on time, and we maintained it for 8 years before we actually sold that on. So it's kind of, so we did quite a bit in the different areas of cars, and then when we opened the garage, that was a deep end, to be honest. It was like, right, now servicing, repairs, MOTs, brakes, cam belt, suspension. Had to learn a lot very, very quickly. Very steep learning curve. Yeah.
And I can imagine, like, you obviously went through that phase of like literally building up your knowledge and constantly being on top of your game, to then obviously, to then kind of make sure that you're then servicing the right people and continuing that level of service, working with the right staff and all that sort of stuff.
I'll tell you, do you know what the biggest thing was? It was the distinction of, because I remember being asked when, I'm going to open a garage, and it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to be a German car specialist, Mercedes, BMW, Audi? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to be a VAG specialist, or everything? And we just went, everything. It's fine. We'll do it all. We'll do Porsche, we'll do Land Rover, we'll do Mercedes. So you need the timing tools for each car. You need all the bits and bobs. You need the diagnostic equipment for each car. You need the service reset tools. You need everything for all the brands. And so obviously we've kind of tended to start specialising. So we do a lot of Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Land Rover, Porsche. But then we do the generics as well. So the Ford, Peugeot, Renaults, they come in as well. And then the exotic stuff, so the Maseratis, we get Bentleys, Rolls Royce, we get all sorts in. And we have to be able to, you have to get your head around it all and be able to get the parts, be able to work with the labour, work with the actual vehicles themselves. So it's been really hard, it's a proper deep end.
So you're working on those amazing cars now, but like I said, I think going back to what I asked before about your first car, which was
my first car. It depends. I drove my mum had a company car, a brand new Ford Escort, and that used to just be parked on the drive, because they used to just they had a few cars, and so that was available to me. And so when I first passed my test, I had a 1.6 16 valve brand new Escort. So I was like, I was a cool kid. I had the nicest car, and then I crashed it. Or someone crashed into me. I should say. Correction. Someone crashed into me. And then the insurance went too high. Back then, I'm talking back in 98, 99. It was the insurance went to $2,500. So, because it's 1.6.
Did it feel cool because amongst your friends and family to say I've passed my test, I've got a car now,
I'm a November born, so I was one of the first. So I was the first out of all my friends, and it was great. It was brilliant. And I got the car was ready to go, so I was very fortunate. I jumped straight in the car. Off I went as soon as I passed my test, and then I had a crash a couple of months in, and it was and then I had to start. Then I was left to fend for myself a little bit, because my dad was like, "You blew it. I'm not paying. You're not paying $2,500. I'm not paying $2,500 for your insurance." And that was back then. So that'd be more like $6,000 now. So it was I can't afford that, because I had a job and stuff. I always had various jobs at college. So it's I'll pay my own way. And it's you won't be able to afford $2,500. I wouldn't. So then I started on I think that's where it started. That crash is where it started, because I had to then start looking at finance. I had to start looking at cars. I had to start looking at insurance. And back then, the good old days, I opened the paper, and Renault were doing an offer for Renault Clio, 0% finance, free insurance for 17-year-olds for a year. And I just bought that. I just went, right, I'm going to go and buy that straight away. So I went and bought that. I remember I put the deposit on my credit card, got a credit card, put it on a credit card. Then I paid that off over a year, and I paid the car off, and I basically paid the finance. And then the thing was, my insurance was still really high because I had a crash, so I had to keep switching the cars. So I ended up having a new car every year. So people used to say, oh, you really flash, like you've got a brand new car every year. It's like, no, I can't actually afford the insurance. So it's cheaper to switch the deposit over and just keep moving the cars, and you've got a brand new car. So I went from that Ford Fiesta Z-Tech back to a Clio, and then I learned all about the finance game and about the PCPs and stuff. And so I managed to get myself a BMW at 19. So it's pretty good.
Wow. Not bad, is it? I was going to say.
Right,
not bad at all.
Learn the ropes.
Yeah. So honestly, like, you know, I think we've just kind of like scratched the surface on a few things here. And what I wanted to say was, you know, for anyone who's watching or listening, is that we're going to take a short break now. And what we're going to do actually is we'll come back after the break. And we're going to continue talking with Kamran about, he's talked about his business journey. He's talked about a few things around the car industry. We're going to talk about some of the other projects that he's involved in. And actually we will dive a bit deeper into some of the things that he's already discussed. So stay with us, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, and click the bell icon, and we'll be back shortly with Kamran Saleem on the ZoShow. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the ZoShow. We've been talking to Kamran Saleem, business owner, entrepreneur. He's involved in so many different things. Just before the break, we were talking around the car industry and talking about his journey into business, the lessons, the mistakes. He gave some really valuable advice as well. So if you're watching, please please like, subscribe, and keep following actually the conversation, because we're going to be talking about a lot of more interesting things. Cam, just before the break, we were talking around your journey into business, how you've pivoted several times. Let's talk a little bit about the car industry now and what's been happening, I suppose, in the last year in your business, you know, and how you've dealt with any sort of changes or challenges.
Yeah, it's a very
broad question. Yeah.
No, it's a very good question, because I think the only way to describe it is it's definitely a recession in the motor industry, and we are kind of stuck in the mud. That's the best way of describing it. It's, we've been flying after, during COVID, we were open every day. You worked with us at that time. We were open every day. We didn't close. We were still trading. Everything was going well. Then after COVID, all the price rises of the cars led to by the shortage. That just skyrocketed the car sales business, it skyrocketed the service business. So, we didn't really, it was going such good momentum. It was really good. Then after Christmas 22, opened the doors. I remember it, January 3rd, 2023. And it was like, who turned the tap off? Mm-hmm. It literally changed just like that. Yeah. Car sales just plummeted. And the reason being, interest rates. Yeah. Interest rates went up, made the funding more expensive, made vehicles, the availability of stock vehicles out there more expensive. So it's just died a death, to be honest. So the last year, we haven't been immune to that. Like, our car sales department took massive hits. We had about 100 cars in stock at the beginning of 23. And by June, we could see what was happening because we were warned about it, and it's going to keep taking book drops. So we reversed the hell out of there as fast as we could. So we dumped a lot of stock. We sold a lot of cars quite quickly. And then we were just trying to recoup and just kind of regroup into the service business. And because the fear that we had was the sales business was going to take the service business down with it. So, and in business, that, we said it before, pivoting, changing, seeing what's going on in the environment, you can't be sentimental. Yeah. I built up the car sales business. It took from 2017 to 2022, and it was, it was going up a lot. We got new premises, we opened up a sales centre, it was all really good. If I'd have held on to that, it would have sunk us, like, completely. Like, it created a crater. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's harmed us a lot, but it would have literally put us out of business. And I know a hell of a lot of garages that have gone out of business. They've taken stock drops of like 1.3 million, 1.8 million in 3 months. Like, if you're talking, you got 300 cars in stock, and we've been taking losses of like 3 to 5k a car. So it soon adds up, and you get into the millions quite quickly. So it's quite a scary industry to be in, because you are talking about big figures, high ticket items, and the market, the movements, like the wind can change. And you just get into this false sense of security. It's like, stock trading, like market trading. You get into a false sense of security that, like, it will keep going the way it's been going. because it's fine. Everything's fine. You got the momentum.
Yeah.
And when it changes, you got to recognise the change. And we recognise it. I wouldn't say we recognise it straight away, but we were kind of like, you live in hope that this is just a blip. It's just a slowdown. Like, first quarter is a bit of a blip because after Christmas, people are a little bit skint. So, it'll pick up. It just didn't. It was still going down quarter two. So we pulled the plug on it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, the team, we consulted all the team and it was like, what do you think? And they were like, we agree. We don't think it's going to pick up again.
Yeah.
Not for this year, maybe not for next year. And so we pulled the plug on it, we pulled back from it, and look what's happening at the moment. We're in 24. In the last 2 weeks, you've seen Kazoo go down, go into administration, like finally. They took a while, but they finally pulled the plug on it. And, Sitner, the mighty Sitner, they lost Car Shop 3 weeks ago, so they put Car Shop into admin. So, and that's one of the biggest companies out there.
Yeah.
So everyone's like suffering at the moment. And the reason being, at the moment, the problem, you had the obviously shortage of vehicles being manufactured. Then you had the problem with the chips because of Russia and the wiring looms and stuff because of Ukraine. And then now you've got this vacuum of cars. So fleet cars weren't being delivered between 2020 and 2022.
Yeah.
So now you've got this massive vacuum of cars that haven't come off lease, that haven't come off fleet, that will then feed the second-hand car market. They're not there. There's not an excess of stock sitting there. So, and the car dealers, the big chains, the big car supermarkets, they need the stock throughput because each stock item has profit on it. Each profit feeds the overheads, feeds the salaries, feeds the buildings. And if the cars aren't there, what you're supposed to sell, you can't sell thin air.
Yeah.
So they're letting people go. They're dropping the team numbers down. They're losing premises. Like they're just dropping down. They're kind of shrinking down into the market size.
Yeah.
And then hopefully in the near future, in the medium term future, it's going to pick up again. Yeah. But the other factor at play at the moment, the big question mark in the whole of the industry is bloody electric cars and hybrid cars.
Yeah.
Which way are we going?
Yeah.
There's this, I think the government U-turn on the 2030 deadline put more turmoil into it, not less. Because now people have gone, oh yeah, that's great, we'll keep the diesels. Because obviously everyone got it into their mind that we've got X number of years left, we've got 7 years left, we've got 8 years left till we're not going to have diesel, we're not going to have petrol. So everyone's starting to adopt into electric, starting to it's a forced move. Yeah. So you have to get into it, otherwise you won't have a car.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of it's up to 2035, and I don't know, it's broke the, it's a boy that cried wolf kind of thing. It's we're going to ban it in 2030, and then, no, we're not. We're going to ban it in 2035.
Create that kind of uncertainty.
No, we're not. We're going to ban it in 2030. So now it's you can just push them.
You can
push them back again. So keep the diesels going, keep the petrols going. So it's led to a little bit of uncertainty in the market because everyone is moving to electric. So all the manufacturers, all the dealerships, everyone is moving to electric on this strict deadline. And a few of them have said, I think Chert have said, a few of them said, we're going to keep going to that deadline. We're going to self-impose that 2030 deadline. So there still are. Yeah. But in preparation for 2035, so they've got a 5-year kind of fallout in case they kind of tip over the edge. But it's just created uncertainty. So at the moment, the fleet buyers are pretty much the only electric car buyers out there. And then the people that are buying new cars are buying electric cars on all the tax incentives. But what happens when the tax incentives run out? Or when they finish them? Who's going to buy electric? Who's going to buy a Tesla for 70, 80, 100 grand? They're just not, if they're not getting that tax incentive. And then what no one's really looking at is the second-hand market. Because is the second-hand market ready for the EVs? And the second-hand market kind of drives the exit of the fleet cars, exit of the brand new cars. So is there a demand for electric cars? Because what do you drive? You drive a petrol. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I drive a diesel. Still. I'm going to hold on as long as possible.
As long as you can. I was going to come back to the point about electric cars. Because one thing I want to say to you, the previous point you made about how you basically kind of dealt with the challenge of with the sales side of the business and how you kind of overcame. I feel like you actually dealt with that quite quickly, and you dealt with it quite efficiently from your point of view.
Savage.
One thing, but at the same time, what I want to ask was, I suppose this is for anyone who's in business really, or for anyone who's starting out, is could you have maybe prepared for that you mentioned January 23 when the market dropped and stuff. Is there ever a way to predict those periods where markets or your business may go through challenges, or is it just a case of like when you're faced with it, you just have to try and tackle it as best as you can.
It's the crystal ball thing.
Did you see anything coming? Like
you saw obviously interest rates started going up, and it started slowing in November and December 22, but not a massive amount. Is only, and then was that because of Christmas? Was that because of seasonal drop? Because it always does in November, December. It kind of drops off a little bit, so it's kind of on the same or level. So our interest rate is going to have that much of an effect. Because actually, I remember the conversations. Because back in 2006, when I first started, interest rates were actually above 4, and our charge out rate on APRs was 6.9, 7.9. So what actually happened was the banks pulled their margins down. Yeah. So they're working on, and what they said was they used to get money from the world markets, so they were picking up funds from elsewhere that were cheaper, and they're hence wholesaling that cash and then retailing that out on the consumer finance on the cars. And so it was the assumption that things would change. The banks would, they went through initial snap reaction where it went from 7.9 up to 12.9. And he's like, all it would take is that one lender to come forward, like Santander or, Motornovo or whoever, and they're going to reduce the rates down. And it would just create that competitive race to the bottom again. Yeah. And then the rates will come back down again. It'd be 7.9, 8.9, before you can blink. They haven't, and I haven't even up until now. And the reason being, the market across the globe is screwed. So there is no cheap money anywhere. Yeah. So there is no 0% money. There is no cheap money anywhere. Yeah. So they've all gone up in price. Yeah. So, I hand on heart, we're talking, I got customers, being guests on your show, we supply cars to, and, Audi Q7, 32k, 32, 34k bought in 2020. Really good price for the car. Finance dirt cheap. So monthly installment, like £2,000 down, about $450. To get a newer one now, the price is 42k for like the same kind of age from new, that was at that time for the facelift. But because the rates are now 12.9 kind of upwards, 11.9, 12.9 upwards, like you can get better deals on the internet and stuff, but just generally speaking, they're about 10 to 12% upwards because the rate's higher. The same car's costing you £250, £300 more a month, like in business. Like if you're just running that car through business, like PCP for 4 years, why bother? It's the same car. Just bring it to us, we'll service it, we'll do your 40,000, 50, 60,000 mile service, and we'll keep it going well. We'll change the brakes, we'll change the tyres, and it's pretty much the same car. So, and people are like, you're right, I'm just going to keep it. I'm just going to keep it another 2 years and see what happens. And I think that's been the thing. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with the election. Let's see what happens with the economy. Let's hold tight for now. And that's stopped anyone going out buying cars, basically. So it's really messed the market up, really. From
what you went through, and I suppose from the experience that you had over that time, what was your biggest lesson? And I suppose something that maybe other people can maybe take and use. Like, what's the one thing, if there is, like what's the one thing that you look back on and you think, like, okay, I did this well, and maybe some advice to anyone who is currently going through anything, or you think that if anyone's ever faced with that, what could they do?
It's my lesson from that was don't trust the banks and have a backup plan.
All right, okay.
Seriously, because what we did was we leaned on funding to sort us out and sort everything out, and to kind of like they'd come in and they'd sort everything out like they'd done in the past. But when the market's down for everyone. The market's down for them too. And we had all these promises, we had all these like credit written agreements, blah, 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 we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They didn't, they shorted us at the last minute. And that's what, to be honest, that screwed us more than the actual market going down, because we had the exit plan, we sorted it all out, we had it lined up, and then the bank screwed us at the last minute. So it was kind of like, great, left us in a lurch, and we survived, but it was touch and go. Yeah. It was a big shock at the time, and it was kind of like, but I remember back in the last recession as well, what happened with the finance business, what happened with the stuff. The banks withdrew. That's what happened then as well. So Lombard made everyone redundant, and they just withdrew their products. They all did. Fortis Bank withdrew from the UK completely. I don't think they've ever come back. So, you can't rely on the banks. because the banks will change things like in line with the market. Yeah, it's not them being mean. Yeah. It's just them changing things in line with market conditions. So any relationship you've got, any kind of friendships you've got, like you think you've got with the banks, they'll pull the rug from under you. Yeah. So you've got to be self-sustaining. You've got to be able to like get private investment, do this, do that. Like you've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet really without the reliance on banks in some respects.
Yeah, yeah. Looking at the positives then, because obviously you're now focusing back on the servicing side of things, which was the core product, and what I suppose you built the reputation, of the business on. Looking at what you're doing now, like kind of talk to us about, I suppose, like kind of what it led to in terms of like positives, in terms of like so you came out of the car stuff, the car sales side of things, but then. What did it do in terms of like for the business where now you think, okay, well, you've let that go, but it presented more opportunities for what you're doing now, for example? Or,
well, the service side, we just expanded it. So we've got more ramps in, we've got a bit more push on it. And we've also introduced more heavily, because we had actually formulated it before, but we had never really pushed it because we were too busy selling cars. Yeah. But it's the Motor Club subscription product, which I think you know all about. Yeah, yeah. So the Motor Club was... we came up with it a while ago. We tested it using a different product first. Like it was called a gold membership, and then we turned it into Motor Club, and it's basically based on what car you drive. So 0 to 2 litre, 2 litre and to 3 litre. And now we've got a refresher package, which is like for all cars. So it's from $14.99 a month, $24.99 a month, and $34.99 a month. Yeah. Basically includes all your servicing, so any servicing that you require, your MOT, your four-wheel alignment, aircon regas, fluid top-ups, bulb replacements, apart from Xenon LED. Yeah.
Just get that in there. Yeah.
So, and then, so basically includes everything your car will need, but you just pay a monthly figure. Yeah. And then now, since concentrating on it, we actually added on a benefits portal. So we've now got MS shoppers. So now by being a member, you get access to thousands of discounts, and it's like literally across the board. So it's all supermarkets, it's all retail chains, it's retail restaurants. It's basically everything. So you get from 3% up to 80% off of these things. So my wife literally just booked a spa break, and she got a really good deal on it, like 25% off. So we get up to 40% off cinema tickets. So it's really good package. I'm not just saying that.
That's good, honestly.
I'm enjoying it. Like we're enjoying the discounts and savings. So it's really
a lot of benefits from that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you was because going through the challenges, and then having to almost like reinvent yourself and pivot. How important was having like, the customer base, the network, the community that you're part of? I mean, that must have been really helpful as you were.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? It's
strengthening
when things happen, like bad things happen in business, and like stuff. It's kind of how you react to it firstly, and like your kind of attitude towards it, because you can easily put your head in the sand, and you have to do it to a certain extent to concentrate and to get yourself through it, and to kind of shut yourself off a little bit and just sit down and think about how you're going to do it. Like
reflect and refocus
and strategize.
Did you need time just to yourself even?
Yeah, it was a big shock. It's
just like lock yourself away in a room and almost just think, right,
Yeah, because it's a shock. It's upsetting. It's very emotional. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't just like, let's just stop there. We just spent years building it up. We spent a lot of money doing it. We put a lot of time and effort into it. We did the sales launch. I see memories on Facebook and it makes me feel sick. And it's but at the time it was good. And don't get me wrong, we capitalized on it. It was good. Built up really well. We learned a lot from the experience. Learned a lot about cars and about used cars and about appraising cars and all the rest of it, and the little things that happen with the kind of car sales process. But so learned a lot from that. Basically met a lot of dealers. We know a lot of dealers, know a lot of traders. Everywhere, and it opened up our network a lot. But then when you pull back from it, and we have got a good support structure and position, not just family, but we've got a lot of friends, we've got a lot of people in the community, we've got like all the networks that we're part of. So they give you a boost. You say like, look, we need a bit of help on the car service side. We're doing, because we've introduced some more services on the car service, so now we do DPF cleans. We're a carbon clean centre, so we do carbon cleans on the engines and ozone sanitize, which has obviously been a thing since COVID. So we've got the machine for that now as well. So we introduced more product lines and service lines, and it's just big push on that. And then your friends in your network kind of help you push it out. So it's been good.
Yeah. And I think focusing on community itself and the wider network that that you have, you're obviously involved in other things, as I mentioned. You got property, and you also got the Islamic cemetery project as well that you've been doing for the last year. And I think actually that's quite an important topic to to bring up in terms of, as this is an Islamic radio station. So just talk to us a little bit about that. Is it Iman Gardens?
Yeah, so the whole thing kind of stemmed off like the mustard and stuff, and from the funeral services side of it, and our knowledge about that, and our involvement with Birmingham City Council. Like every year they put the price up, and every year there's a bit of drama over it. And so I kind of grew up around that. I kind of saw that, and the funeral service was kind of built at Gumgore Sharif, like when they built the mustard and the purpose-built centre at the back, like the morgue and basically the lift and everything. So it was, purpose-built was one of the best in the UK at the time. And a lot of people have taken example from that, which has been brilliant. So now we've got a lot of funeral services around Birmingham. So, but at the time, there's only a couple at Central Mosque and Gumgore Sharif at the time. So kind of grew up around it, like seeing it, like all the build and everything. And to be honest, it was actually one of our clients who bought a piece of land in Lichfield, Aldridge, just off the Chester Road, 36 acres, and it's got 32, basically got planning permission for a cemetery, 32,000 plots, and so it's a big site, and it's going to be a big facility for everyone. And I got quite deeply involved in that because there was a few stakeholders, basically, borough committees, the mustards and stuff, who actually bought plots there, so ready for the future. So for the community use for the future. And I got quite heavily involved in it. I did a lot of research around it. I learned a lot about it. So about all the regulations, about the things. I did my own courses. So I did the ICCM management course. So I got a certificate for that. And then we were doing all the bits and bobs just to help. And then I started getting approached by other people from around the country. So I managed to secure a facility in Surrey. It's actually, you said I started a year ago, but it's actually been going since 2012. So I met the guy in 2012, and he showed me, basically, we got a site down there, 18 acres, planning permitted for cemetery. I've got no use for it, basically, because he's quite a big international businessman, basically. So he turned around to me and said, can you help us out with it? You seem to know what you're doing with them. So he's like, yeah, no problem. So we got a hold of it, and at first it was going to be a multi-phase site. But then all the kind of build was done, the clearances were done on the planning permission, the site was opened for use, basically. So it's all laid to lawn, all the hedging, all the planting was done, so it's kind of ready to go. And then it was actually put on pause because the guy got approached for a potential housing project, which is going to bring him 296 dwellings in Surrey. So that was going to be a massive windfall for him. So because the area was rezoned for housing. So it went on pause for quite a few years while it was kind of running through the process. Unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us, it didn't get planning. Another site got it. Another site got the green light. They got a yellow light. And I said, we'll cycle back around to this next 5 to 10 years. And he said, I'm not waiting that long. And off he went to Switzerland or wherever he's gone, Geneva. So off he went. And he basically turned around and said, like, look, you guys can secure whatever you need to secure. But he obviously needed money for that. So we ended up portioning the site off, and the Ismaili Council of Britain, based in Knightsbridge in London, they bought a large portion of the site to the rear for their own community cemetery use for the future. Like, it's a similar kind of issue. So we've secured the front half of the site, which is it's about 3,000 plots total. So for the future use for the Surrey community. And in the last 10 years, so since 2011 to 2021, the Surrey Muslim population has tripled. So the need and the requirements actually tripled. COVID kind of sped up the, you could call it consumption of the other sites, like the use of the other sites. So there's a real shortage, there's a real problem down there. So we literally, when all this stuff was going on with the sales, found ourselves unoccupied, that we would have been with the car sales. So it's just kind of, the asset was there. So we thought, right, let's get it out. Let's market it. Let's put the plan around it. Let's get the resources in position. And we managed to get the landscape because we've got the burial team. We've got, all the marketing and everything done. We've got the branding done. We opened it. And then now we're in discussions with, so we're actually open right now. But we're actually talking to, 3 or 4 burial, mosque committees down in the area, which have multiplied in the last 10 years. So there's quite a lot of community groups, and we're looking at sectioning off parts of the cemetery for their use for the future. Yeah. So inshallah, it'll be good service provision for the next kind of 20, 30 years for use down there. Yeah. And then inshallah, the Birmingham site, we had an interest in another site, which was, it's another multi-faith site in Cannock Chase. So we secured a very large Muslim section there. It's actually where my actual late sister is buried there. So we've got a large Muslim section there, which is ready, it's available now. Muslims are being buried there already. It's a private site. It's lovely. It looks like a golf course. It's really, really nice. So that's in Cannock Chase. So that's available to anyone. Fixed prices, no like multiplications of postcode rates or anything like that. So it's open to everyone. That's available there now. So that's Chasing District Memorial Park. And we've got our big site, which has gone through a lot of turmoil because there's been a lot of, how can I put it, politics around it. So there's a lot of planning issues. There's a lot of, we had to build an island. Then the initial client, he couldn't actually take it forward. So then we had to go out to market and get a backer for it to basically finance it and take it forward, which took us about 4 years. So we've actually done that now. So we've got a big corporate behind it. They're building the island. They're landscaping it. They're building the building. And so it should be open hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years. And it'll be potentially, if I can persuade them to make it all Muslim and give it for the Muslim use, it'll be the largest Muslim site in the UK. But at the moment, there are plans to make it multi-faith or separate it out. I think it will be fully Muslim, to be honest. So let's see what happens.
I think it's amazing that you're involved in, in such a, an Islamic project, first of all, and something that I think it's almost a very, I find in my experiences is, when we've lost family members, and I'm sure, anyone who's watching or viewing this right now can relate to what we're saying here, is that do you sometimes think it's like an afterthought where people, when something happens like that,
people don't think about it?
They don't think about it, do they?
It's because the problems basically come because in my lifetime, in your lifetime, in my family, we've seen when someone passed away, you go for the janazah down in London, you go wherever they live. What's the next step? They're kind of packaged, ready for the PIA flight back to Pakistan. Because they're going to be buried in the family graveyard in Pakistan. And in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, that's becoming the non-norm. It's becoming you don't do that anymore. So people are being buried here. We're obviously Muslim, we have 100% burial rate. The local authority plans from back in the 60s, 70s, they've been obviously lobbying and pushing the Western society into cremations. So they stopped planning for cemeteries. They said, we won't need them because it's going to be cremation remains. We're going to need less space. And then we all came along in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and we've populated the areas. And the population, mashallah, exceeding expectations. Birmingham's going to be 30% plus by 2030. So 2031 by the census. So we are growing in population massively across the UK in different cities. So there's a shortage. Simple as that. So at the moment, it's okay in most areas because, the local authorities have got the sites rolling. What about in 20 years' time? What about in 30 years' time? What we're going to do then? We can't just open up a site in a year and just get it up and running. It takes ages. So that's why these provisions that we're looking at now are like, even though, like the one in Farnham in Surrey, we were happy to mothball that because at the time, there was no real demand. There was other sites that were still going. So there's still the Muslim requirement was being fulfilled. But then now it's a stark contrast. And hence we've had so much demand for it. So it's been really good. And then I want to bring in, so the biggest problem that people face is, because obviously we bury very quickly. Like you want to bury within 24 hours. You want to bury within 12 hours if you can. So if someone dies, unexpectedly, how are you supposed to dump up $5,000? $3,500, $4,000 for the plot, for the burial fee, everything else, and then plus the other expenses for food, for the family, for being off work. You need to suddenly find $5,000-6,000, and that the Muslim Burial Fund has come up on Facebook that I keep seeing, and that's mashallah, a fantastic project. Some brothers have got together, they put together a national charity, and they go around. Basically, they go around raising money, and then people that have got no next of kin that they can't afford it, they'll pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's absolutely, what better thing can you do?
Yeah.
You know, for a Muslim,
absolutely,
so it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And I really want to say that I think it's fantastic that you're involved with something like that. And one thing I really picked up on, Cam, is that I always think like we mentioned the multiple streams that you're part of at the minute with. It's almost like you like to serve people with the cars, with property, with with the burial service. It's always I always find like there's a real common denominator here about people and almost like kind of ensuring their sort of like their well-being or their future in some capacity. And again, look, it's a very sentimental thing, as you mentioned, with with the burial service, and hats off to you again for that, because one thing I really want to ask you was this entrepreneurial kind of spirit that you've got, with the business, with getting involved in different projects. Is that just something that's ingrained in you? Because I find like you're spinning these different plates, and is that just something that is that's just part of you, isn't it? I think and you just enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. It's I think again it's kind of installed into you because do you know what? I find it extremely fascinating because I've got 3 sons. And Mashallah, I try and think back to like, what did my dad do to me? Yeah. At the time, like, how did he train me? Or how did he get that? How did he put me on that line? Yeah, because he didn't want me to be on that line. He wanted me to be an optician. Yeah. That's what he wanted me to be, optician or dentist. Yeah, standard.
But there's a real discipline, if you understand what I'm trying to say. There's this real sort of like when you're talking, like, and I'm sure people watching probably thinking, wow, like you're so driven in doing all these different things. I mean, most people struggle to maybe even hold down one job or 2 jobs now, like with the cost of living and stuff. But it's almost like there's always something that I'm almost getting this sort of like that you're constantly researching, learning, and there's probably never like one thing I want to ask you was, is there ever a limit to learning things? Like, no, never.
There's always, I'm learning stuff every day because it's, around. Like at the moment, I'm it's a bit weird, but I'm having to brush up on the legislation in the UK. Yeah. And you're talking back in the 1800s about all the rules and regs because I'm currently in discussions with various legal people about the Surrey site, about their burials, and they're asking me a lot of questions. And I'm thinking, I know that, but I can't remember the exact, laws and the exact years. So yesterday I was learning all that again. And I was like reading it all off again now. 1867 bylaws and this and that. And it's,
and that's what I was going to say. Like you probably never really sort of. Well, I know you do switch off. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like. But I think it's amazing that you're so kind of like driven in always like It's like you don't rest on your laurels and you're always trying to just move to the next level.
I don't know. It's strange, isn't it? But you got to kind of make the best of what you got.
Yeah.
And you got to, shouldn't say it in this manner because it's Islamic radio, but you deal with the cards you've got kind of thing. Yeah. You got to play the game. Yeah.
And ironically, talking about cards, there we go.
You put it in my head.
That was a great little caveat there. Do you know what I mean? So, and actually, just before we move on to this section, this is something that we've never done before on the ZoShow, but as it's episode 10, and usually what I ask guests is, to give us their closing thoughts, a thought for the road, for example, something positive to leave the show with. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually just ask Cam a question from this is credit to Stephen Bartlett, by the way, just to give him a little shout out from his conversation cards. And I'm just going to pick one at random here. So if anyone doesn't know the background behind this, these are questions that Stephen normally asks on his podcast to guests, and then that's usually reserved for the following guest. So I am just picking a card at random now, by the way. And I'm just going to ask Cam, and this will be the last little discussion, that we'll have. And I've just picked the first card out of the box, actually.
Nah,
so here we go. It's not fixed at all. So this is like normally a lot of his high profile guests, and I'll just pick one from random now. So this is from, and apologies if I've mispronounced this, if anyone does recognize the name here, Liver King. So this is just a question that he asked Stephen on the, Stephen asked him on the podcast. I'll ask Cam this now, and then we'll end the show on this. So here we go. What is the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? That is a random question, by the way. There were a few other ones which I thought, right, okay, for the first time asking that. So what is the hardest thing? I mean, we may have already touched on it, Cam, but yeah. So what's the hardest or the most challenging thing that you've ever done in your life?
Oh, that is hard. It's, ironically, it's nothing to do with business or anything like that. Because, that's just a daily challenge. It's just a daily battle, just different battles, just different days. But it's, I'd say my one phobia is heights. I hate heights, like I always have since a kid. Yeah. But when I was younger, I was in the Army Cadets, and that really influenced me as a young child. Like, and I'm definitely getting my kids to do it as well. But I was in the Cadets for like the full 6 years. Went through all of it, and I remember there was a fire tower, and they made us climb up these ladders, go to the top, and then abseil off the top of it, and it was, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, and I froze about 10 times on the way up. Like, there's no choice. You're doing it. Like, so kicking you up the backside, you getting up there, get up there, do it, and it helped. Like, when I was doing it, it was horrendous, but I remember it was absolutely. I was so scared. Yeah. And then after I did it, the sense of relief, the sense of achievement, the sense of everything, and the thing about heights, it kind of broke it a little bit. So since then, I've been up in helicopters. I went up to the Burj Khalifa to the top, like the thingy in London. What's it called? The Shard. To the top of the Shard, and it's kind of. Yeah, I'm scared of it. I don't like it, but I can do it.
But you addressed it, you faced it, and you broke the fear. Yeah,
that's it. And that stayed with me.
And just talking about fear, and I suppose really I think it's difficult for me not to ask this because I've been so used to it in the last 9 episodes. But just to normally ask about closing thoughts, but if we finish with, if anyone does have a fear of something, doesn't matter what it is, personal, business related, whatever. You've just spoken about your own experience there. What's your advice to people on that? For anyone facing any kind of fear at the minute or any challenge?
In business or
anything right personal, business, or whatever, from your experiences. Well,
at this moment in time, I think the biggest fear that's going around at the moment is survival. Yeah. How we're going to get through this, how we're going to do this. And it is literally, don't put your head in the sand. You have to look around. You have to find what you've got. Like, you find your assets, find your attributes, find the positives, and go out there and try and capitalize on them. And you got to diversify. You got to pivot. You got to, like, whatever word you want to use, whatever, like, topical word. But you got to just move with the times, and you can't stay set in your ways. Because we've evolved as a business about 8 times. We do cemeteries, for goodness sake, we do cars, cemeteries, we've got a care home for kids, we've got properties, just normal properties, and it's like, how much more diversified can we get? And it's like, we can't really get much more diversified. It's because of that, you're spreading the risks. So in this market, in this situation right now, there's a lot of scared people out there, there's a lot of worried people, a lot of stressed people, and people haven't got enough income, the cost of living's rising, they're under pressure. You can almost feel it out there. When you're driving around, you can feel it, and people are really annoyed, they're really upset. So it's a scary time, but we've been through these. It's not the first time around the block. 80s recession and 90s recession, recession of 2008, they come and go. So I personally feel that we're over the worst of it, and hopefully we're on now the election's announced, and now that obviously they're going to be incentivising voters, they're going to be doing this and they're going to be doing that, we're going to be holding to account for that. Hopefully we're over the worst of it, and now we can get back to it. Things will improve, things will get back to it. The market indicators are good, inflation's down, things are happening, so you're nearly there. So people stay positive. Stay positive. Just do what you can.
And do what you can. Fantastic. Honestly, I think that's a great note to end on. Cam, really want to say, a massive thank you, for coming on. I know you're a busy man, but you spared the time to come on the show today, and I really, really appreciate that.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Guys, honestly, I'm not just saying this, Cam is somebody who I've known for quite a long time now. I really hope everyone's enjoyed everything that we've discussed. And as I said, guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please do like, subscribe, Click the bell icon for more episodes. And if anyone does have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments, and I'll make sure, they reach Cam, and we'll try and get a response on that. How can Cam, how can people, how can they connect with you, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, social media. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. We don't really use it, but I'm on all the other channels and I use them. So feel free. Yeah, give us a shout.
Fantastic. We'll drop all the links in the description, guys. So like I said, please do keep following, and and like I said, we'll be back for another episode of the ZoShow soon. Thank you very much.